Letsatsi, thanks so much for speaking to us on such short notice.
Good morning, Sakina, and good morning to the viewers as well.
Mr. Letsatsi, let's start and take it, in an orderly fashion. Firstly, who qualifies for this 350 Rand COVID-19 relief grant?
Look, Sakina, we do have the criteria in place. Let me start by removing certain people. One, if you are a beneficiary of social grant, you do not qualify. If you've got an income, you also don't qualify. However, it's people who basically don't have any source of income who can apply. They must be South African citizens, or a refugee can also qualify to make an application.
So how will you as SASSA determine that someone is indeed not receiving an income right now? Because they may have been receiving an income at the time when the nation went into lockdown, but that may have dried up subsequently.
When they make an application, Sakina, we do take them through a particular process, and that particular process will be able to give us an outcome which will demonstrate whether a person is receiving any source of income and so on. Because when you make an application, there are certain questions which we ask you, and as you go and fill up the information, at the end we are able to determine whether you qualify or not. It's a very, very tight process to make sure that we don't necessarily, we focus basically on those who are in need.
Mr. Letsatsi, part of the problem and why I'm asking you that question is because in terms of who can apply and who qualifies for this grant, one of the categories of people is, of course, those who are receiving UIF. And we know from the number of mails that we get here on this show alone every day that there are many people who are struggling to get their UIF funds paid. So if they also find themselves in a situation now where they are not receiving any funds, how are you going to be able to establish that and make sure that they indeed qualify for this fund?
Look, there are checks and balances, Sakina, that we are doing as an organization. But I think the detail, because the Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu, would be making the directives known to everybody in the country. And I think as an organization would therefore have to implement as per the directives. So I think as the country, we need to be just a little bit patient and wait for the minister to make those directives known to everybody. However, we think our system as government talks to each other. So if you are a beneficiary on the other level, we are able to pick it up on the side. Like, for an example, if I may quickly make this example, Sakin. I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, Mr. Letsatsi, have you concluded your point there?
Are you using laptop?
Okay, I think we're just losing that connection there slightly. Mr. Letsatsi, can you still hear me?
I can hear you, Sakina. I think there was some interruption in terms of the line. I just heard some voices.
All right.
But I'm just saying, for an example, if someone comes, our system is able to talk to each other as government departments. For an example, we're able to check certain information with SARS, we're able to check certain information with Home Affairs, and so on when a person makes an application. So we think once the minister comes forth and make those particular directions known to everybody in the country, as an organization, we would have to make sure that we follow them and make sure that everybody who's in need of a grant is able to be assisted. We do not necessarily want to upload people who are already getting paid somewhere, because we don't want the system to be clogged, or we don't want the system to have many people who are not supposed to be part of the system. But we think and hope that our people understand and will be able to explain to them like we are doing now. But we are just appealing for that little bit patience for the minister to be able to make those directives known.
Mr. Letsatsi, you gave an email address that people can use, because we are told that the WhatsApp, that avenue is not working. But there are, of course, concerns around this for people who do not have access to email. Firstly, what is the process there? Because they are told about people who will come around to these communities and try and find out who is unemployed. But how exactly is that going to work? Who are these people? When will they be coming? And how will people know when and who they need to approach?
I'm very much careful, Sakina, not to venture into the stage where the minister is supposed to make those particular directives. I would want to give her the chance to do that so that we as an organization, as an implementing arm of government, were able to do that. But obviously, there's certain information which is readily available that we can give to the public. Like you asked me about an email. The email is srd@sassa.gov.za. That's an email where members of the public can be able to interact with us. I can safely say the WhatsApp number, Sakina, was working because we were just testing if it can be able to take a load of numbers when they go through it. However, it was just going through the testing stage so that we wanted to make sure that once the minister makes everything known to the public, we're ready to upload numbers of people who will be coming on the system and so on. I can make an example. Our toll-free number, for an example, we take about 1,000 calls a minute. However, since the start of the lockdown, we had about 9,000 calls per minute, and it was clocked. We could not be able to get certain numbers to go through and so on. Hence, some of the people were recalled to come and mend the system. But we think that when the minister is ready to make those pronouncements, as an organization, we'll then be able to implement everything smoothly.
Mr. Letsatsi, people are absolutely frustrated at this point. How many people are you expecting to apply for this relief grant, and how many have you registered thus far?
We do understand the frustration, Sakina, and I think we are humbly appealing for a little bit patience so that, we don't want to create expectations and not deliver. We need to come up and say this is how we are able to deliver, and so that people when they carry are not frustrated. But when the application was made, we had about 15,000 who were uploaded in the system, and I think the process is being sorted out. But we are just appealing to the public. We know the frustration, that they must just bear with us. We don't want to frustrate them more, Sakina. When the minister speaks and then people start making application and the system would then let them down. We must make sure that we are ready. People are able to go through the system without any hassle.
So just clarity on those figures again. My question was, how many applications were you anticipating and how many have you registered thus far?
We have registered about 15,000 when the number was being tested, but we are expecting anything in the region of about 2.7 million and so on.
So that 15,000, not even a drop in the ocean. And of course, these grants are expected to be paid from the 15th. So this is why I think people are frustrated, because the majority then, it would seem, have not been successful in making their applications.
Sakina, I understand your frustration. I understand the frustration of the public. But if I may just make this example, one, you announce the number, you announce all processes, and people apply and they can't go through. I think that will be more worse as compared to make sure that you get your system in order so that when leadership make a pronouncement, we are able to make sure that everybody goes through the system without any hassle. So hence we are appealing to a little bit of patience, and we understand the frustrations, Sakina, and we are not going to downplay the frustrations and say whatever, but we understand. Hence, we are working 24 hours around the clock to make sure that it's all system go and everybody is able to get an assistance.
And just finally, with regard to that the email address, there again, unfortunately, people are saying they are not receiving any feedback. So they don't even know whether they've been noted, whether this is successful application, if they've forwarded all the relevant details. So what's going on there? I personally have tried to send an email just to test the system. Yeah. I haven't received a response either.
I'll have you arrested, Sakina, for testing that email.
I boldly wrote testing, because I'm testing on behalf of these millions of South Africans who are frustrated, and I'm trying to walk this path with them to understand their frustration.
I understand, Sakina, what we're trying to do. all I was just simply saying that that platform is only available to those who are in need. But I do understand, and I do understand the frustrations which we are trying to bring forward to us on behalf of the beneficiaries. However, there's a process, Sakina, which people must be patient with, because once you complete the process, it has to be, there are some checks and balances which we need to do. And once we are done within 7 working days, we are able to respond to you. We think people must be a little bit patient, Sakina. I think I'm saying it about this patience because I understand the frustrations which is there. And I can tell you, Sakina, when we are given the green light, I think it will all be system goes. You can invite me again on SABC. We'll be able to demonstrate when the system is up and running that this patience which we are appealing from our communities, the intention was to make sure that we get our system in order.
So let's talk to that, sister, because there are people who are messaging me right now saying that they already sent those messages out as early as, April 30th or earlier. They haven't received any response from that email address as well. So talk to us about the system and exactly how it is going to work and when you expect it to be ready.
Yeah, Sakina, I think I must be extra careful not to make a mistake. And let me just clarify it to you and to the viewers at home, that when we're making the WhatsApp number live, the intention was to check what capacity it can be able to take and what will be the response period and so on. However, there are certain processes which we need to respect as an organization. Remember, SASSA is an implementing arm of government. The minister officially has to sign and make the directions known to everybody. And we cannot put the cart before the horse. We need to make sure that systems are done and everything is done orderly. So we think the minister is going to make, and we know that she's going to make those directions known to everybody very soon. And once that is done, Sakina, it will all be system goals. So I don't want to run in front of the minister. The minister must then first sign those things into directions, then there'll be an implementation.
Any indication as to when that will be?
There are certain little things which are being sorted out, but I can assure you it will be as soon as possible because everybody, including the minister, understands that this thing is very urgent.
Let's leave it there for the time being because we're out of time. Paseka Letsatsi, thanks so much from SASSA there speaking to us about some of your questions regarding the systems. So this is what we know. We know what you know. We're trying to do our best to bring you these answers. And Leanne, we are still trying with the UIF as well.